Every single year, March Madness is filled with upsets that blow up your bracket. And this year, there are multiple teams that I think will do just that. And even though mid-major basketball isn't talked about as much as the Power 5, it's still home to teams with top-tier offenses and elite defenses, and combine that with the madness that is the NCAA Tournament, and we are bound for some upsets. So today, I'm breaking down every Cinderella team that I think could absolutely ruin your March Madness bracket. But before we begin, if you've been enjoying all of the March Madness content, please consider dropping a like on the video and subscribing to the channel. But now, let's jump into it. Right now, one of the most popular upset picks in the entire bracket is South Florida. And when you look at the way this team has been playing lately, it's not hard to see why. The Bulls have been absolutely dominant down the stretch, winning their final 11 games heading into the tournament. And in fact, they haven't lost since late January, and several of their wins came by 15 points or more. And we all know that momentum matters in March, and South Florida might have more of it right now than almost any mid-major in the field. And what makes this team dangerous is their combination of shooting and athleticism. Guards Wes Enos and Joseph Pinion both knocked down over 100 three-pointers this season, giving the Bulls elite spacing offensively. Enos alone has already had multiple games where he hit double-digit threes, which shows you just how explosive this backcourt can be. And don't forget about the AAC Player of the Year Isaiah Nelson, who the Bulls have holding it down in the front court. But the real difference for South Florida lately has been their defense. Since the beginning of February, the Bulls have been playing at a top 25 defensive level nationally and have been protecting the rim and forcing turnovers at a much higher rate. And that defensive improvement has turned them from a fun offensive team into a balanced threat on both ends of the floor. Their first round matchup with Louisville could be one of the most exciting games of the opening weekend because both teams want to play fast and score a lot. Louisville has more high major talent on paper, but South Florida can absolutely match them athletically and physically, which is rare for a mid-major. And if the Bulls shooters gets hot and their defense continues playing at this level, South Florida has the ingredients to pull off an upset and potentially make a deeper run than most people expect. But while South Florida might be the trendiest upset pick right now, the next team on this list might actually be playing the best basketball out of anyone heading into the tournament. So if you're looking for a team that is peaking at exactly the right time, it's hard to find a better example than VCU. The Rams started the season just 11-6, and for a while it looked like they might be another solid Atlantic 10 team that falls just short of the NCAA tournament. But then something clicked. From that point forward, VCU went on an incredible run, winning 16 of their final 17 games and capturing the Atlantic 10 tournament title. That surge was driven largely by their backcourt, which might be one of the most underrated guard duos in the entire tournament field. Sophomore guard Terrence Hill Jr. is an elite shot creator who can score efficiently at all three levels. He's not just a volume scorer either, he takes care of the basketball and rarely forces bad shots. And next to him is Brandon Jennings, a defensive menace who can completely disrupt opposing backcourts and swing games with his on-ball pressure. And that combination of scoring and perimeter defense gives VCU something every Cinderella team needs in March, which is elite guard play. But the Rams also have strong size and versatility with big man Lazar Djokovic and a group of long wings who can switch defensively. And that lineup flexibility allows them to match up well with a variety of opponents. And their first round matchup is North Carolina, and the Tar Heels backcourt has been inconsistent all season long, which could be a major advantage for the Rams. But the even bigger advantage for me is the fact that North Carolina lost star forward Caleb Wilson to injury, which removes one of the biggest matchup problems VCU might have faced. And if the Rams pull off that upset, they could face Illinois in the second round, and I'm not so sure that's as straightforward of a matchup as most people think. But while VCU brings elite guard play, it's Akron to me who might be the most explosive mid-major team in the entire tournament. And that's because the Zips run an offense built around elite three-point shooting, and they have shooters all over the floor. Guards Tavari Johnson, Shama Scott, and Bowen Hardman have each knocked down more than 70 three-pointers this season, all while shooting extremely efficient percentages. And it's not just their guards, even starting center Amani Lyle stretches the floor, hitting threes at around 38% while averaging more than one made three per game. And that kind of spacing creates serious problems for opposing defenses because it forces big men to leave the paint and defend on the perimeter. And when that happens, Akron's guards can attack closeouts and generate even more open looks. The Zips also play at a very fast tempo, which makes their games chaotic and high scoring, and in a tournament setting, that style can be extremely dangerous because it increases the variance, and variance is exactly what underdogs want. However, there is a clear concern with Akron, and that's the defensive side of the ball. Against high major competition over the last couple of years, the Zips have struggled to get stops, and their first-round opponent, Texas Tech, is definitely capable of scoring as well, which means Akron may have to win in a shootout. But the Red Raiders are without JT Toppin, and their star point guard, Christian Anderson, is coming off of a groin injury, and if he's limited, Akron's offensive firepower could suddenly make this game extremely uncomfortable for the Red Raiders. But the team I think might be the most talented mid-major in the field is Santa Clara, and the Broncos might not be the first team people think of when talking about Cinderella runs, but from a pure talent perspective, the Broncos have the pieces to surprise some people. This program has been knocking on the door of the NCAA Tournament for years now, consistently winning 20-plus games and building a competitive roster. And this year, they finally broke through with their first tournament appearance in 3 decades. And one of the biggest reasons for optimism is their offensive efficiency. Santa Clara finished the season as the most efficient offense in the West Coast Conference, which is impressive considering they were competing against teams like Gonzaga and St. Mary's. And this roster also features legitimate NBA-level talent. Freshman forward Allen Graves has drawn attentions from scouts thanks to his versatility and feel for the game, while big wing Elijah Mahi brings size and athleticism on the perimeter. And in the backcourt, guards Christian Hammond and Sash Gavaluga are absolute studs and provide scoring and playmaking, while Buki Aboye anchors the defense as a rim protector. The biggest concern, though, for Santa Clara is their free throw differential. The Broncos get to the line at one of the lowest rates in the country while simultaneously fouling opponents frequently, and against a team like Kentucky, which gets to the free throw line at a high rate, that could become a major factor. But if Santa Clara can control fouls and keep the game flowing offensively, they have enough talent and shooting to make that matchup far more competitive than many people expect. But if there's one team in the bracket that can completely flip a game with its shooting, it's St. Louis. And the Bilikens are one of the most dangerous perimeter shooting teams in the country, connecting on over 40% of their three-point attempts as a team, which ranks second nationally. And that level of efficiency, combined with high volume, makes them extremely difficult to guard. 4 different players shoot 40% or better from deep, including Trey Green, who has made an absurd 47% of his threes this season, while knocking down around 90 total triples. What makes this offense even more difficult, though, to defend is the presence of Robbie Avila in the front court, and Avila is a big man with exceptional passing ability, which allows St. Louis to run offense through the post and create open looks for their shooters. And when you surround a passing big with elite perimeter shooting, defenses are forced into constant rotations, which opens up driving lanes and cutting opportunities for athletic wings like Dion Brown, Kellen Thames, and Amari McCautry. And St. Louis also brings defensive versatility with those wings, helping them rank as a top 50 defense on KenPom. The concern, though, is their late season form, because after starting the year 24-1, the Bilikens struggled down the stretch, including losses to Rhode Island and Dayton. But if they get past Georgia in the first round, they could face Michigan, which would be a fascinating matchup to watch. But the team on this list with the highest ceiling to me might be Utah State, who has quietly become one of the most consistent programs in college basketball over the past decade. The Aggies are back in the NCAA Tournament once again, making it 6 appearances in the last 7 years, and while they haven't broken through a deep run yet, this might be the roster capable of changing that narrative. The engine of this team is Mason Falslev, who might be one of the most versatile players in the entire tournament. Falslev does a little bit of everything for this team, scoring, rebounding, playmaking, and generating steals, all while maintaining impressive efficiency, and he's the type of player that thrives in March because he impacts the game in so many different ways. And if Utah State is going to make noise in this tournament, it will almost certainly be because Falslev puts together a few star-level performances. And offensively, the Aggies are extremely dangerous. They rank inside the top 30 nationally in offensive efficiency, and they're particularly effective in transition. And head coach Jared Calhoun has built a system that emphasizes smart decision-making and shot quality, and this roster is filled with high IQ players who consistently turn good looks into great ones. And that offensive flow gives Utah State a strong chance, in my opinion, in their opening matchup against Villanova, which is a team that has been inconsistent inconsistent at times this season, and the Aggies' ability to push the pace and capitalize on transition opportunities could give them the edge here. However, the real challenge for them likely comes in the round of 32, where Utah State would face Arizona, and that matchup would present a significant size and athleticism disadvantage for the Aggies. But still, if Utah State can get past Villanova and keep the game against Arizona close, Mason Falslev is exactly the type of player who can take over late and win you a game. But maybe the most fascinating team in the entire tournament is Miami, Ohio, because the RedHawks finished the regular season with an incredible 31-1 record, which immediately raises the question of just how good this team actually is. On one hand, Miami had benefited from playing a relatively soft schedule compared to high major programs, but on the other hand, winning 31 games is never easy, no matter the level of competition, and if it were, we'd see it happen far more often than it does. But on the offensive side of things, Miami is extremely skilled and efficient. The RedHawks shoot elite percentages from both 2-point and 3-point range. They take care of the basketball, and they consistently get to the free throw line, and that combination makes them one of the most efficient offensive teams among mid-majors in the bracket. And the player who makes everything work for this RedHawks team is Peter Suter, as the star guard is a late-game closer, and Suter has built a reputation for being incredibly clutch, delivering several game-winning or game-stealing plays throughout the season. And when Miami finds itself in a close game late, Suter is the player they trust with the ball. But another key aspect of Miami's offense is the spacing created by forwards Brant Byers and Almer Atlason, who can both stretch the floor and pull defenders away from the basket. And that opens driving lanes for Suter and allows the RedHawks to attack defenses from multiple angles. But the biggest question surrounding Miami is how they will handle the step up in competition, because their first four opponent is SMU, and they have far more size and speed, and they haven't faced a guard like Boopie Miller in the MAC. And if the RedHawks get through that game, they would likely face Tennessee, which is one of the most physical defensive teams in the entire country. But still, Miami has proven all year long that they know how to win close games, and that experience could become extremely valuable in March. But to me, the most intriguing Cinderella in this year's tournament is Hofstra, who enters March Madness with something that historically gives underdogs a real chance in March, which is elite guard play. The Pride are led by junior guard Cruz Davis, one of the most dynamic scorers in the country. Davis has already recorded 5 30-plus point games this season, showcasing his ability to create offense at all three levels, whether it's attacking the rim, pulling up in the mid-range, or knocking down perimeter shots. But Davis isn't the only threat in Hofstra's backcourt. Freshman guard Preston Edmeade emerged as a star during the NCAA Tournament, displaying incredible shot-making ability and confidence off the dribble. And his emergence gives Hofstra two guards who can create offense late in the shot clock, which is critical in tournament settings. And the challenge for opposing teams is that they may have one defender capable of slowing down Davis or Edmeade, but it's extremely difficult to stop both of them. Hofstra also has solid interior size with 7-footer Silas Sunday and 6'10" Victory Onyentu, who split time at the center position and provide strong rim protection for the Pride. And their presence in the paint helps Hofstra secure early season wins over two high major opponents in Syracuse and Pitt. But another strength for the Pride is their ability to stay competitive. Remarkably, all 10 of their losses this season came by 8 points or fewer, which means they're almost always in the game down the stretch. And their first round matchup against Alabama will be challenging, especially given the Crimson Tide's offensive firepower, but Hofstra's size inside could create problems on the glass for Alabama, and their guard play gives them a legitimate chance to not only keep this game close, but to win it. But now I want to talk about a team that's starting to look like a powerhouse in the mid-major ranks, and that's the High Point Panthers, who enter the NCAA Tournament as one of the hottest teams in the country. The Panthers have lost just once since December 15th, winning 22 of their last 23 games, and that momentum alone makes them dangerous, but the composition of their roster makes them even more intriguing to me. High Point has leveraged NIL resources to build one of the deepest mid-major rosters in the entire country. The team features transfers from major programs like Kentucky, Arizona, and UConn, and many of whom come off their bench. And in addition to that high major depth, 4 of their 5 starters were already proven mid-major players before transferring to High Point. And that combination of experience and depth gives the Panthers an advantage over many teams at their level. Their style of play is centered around turnover dominance and attacking the rim. and High Point ranks top 5 nationally in both forcing turnovers and taking care of the basketball, which helps them create extra possessions, which is extremely important in a tournament environment where every possession matters. And one of the closest historical comparisons to this year's High Point team is James Madison from the 2024 tournament, which upset Wisconsin in the first round. And who does High Point face in the first round this year? You guessed it, Wisconsin, which means this matchup could be far more interesting than many people expect. But the last possible Cinderella team on my list is Northern Iowa, and this program has quietly built a reputation for being dangerous in March. The Panthers have produced multiple memorable tournament runs over the years, including a Sweet 16 appearance in 2010 and NCAA tournament wins in both 2015 and 2016. And much of that success has come under longtime head coach Ben Jacobson, who is now just a few wins away from 400 career victories at Northern Iowa. And this year's team brings several characteristics that historically translate well to tournament success. First, they play at one of the slowest tempos in the country, which limits possessions and makes it difficult for opponents to build large scoring runs. And when underdogs slow games down, it increases the likelihood of close finishes, which is exactly the type of environment where upsets happen. Second, the Panthers defend extremely well. They rank inside the top 25 nationally in defensive efficiency according to KenPom, giving them the ability to control games even when the offense is struggling. And the key player for Northern Iowa is Tristan Smith, a physical forward who missed time earlier this season with an injury, and during that stretch when he was sidelined, the Panthers struggled and lost 6 of their 8 games. But when Smith is on the floor, Northern Iowa is more than 16 points per 100 possessions better offensively, which shows just how important he is to their system. And combine him with star guard Trey Campbell and several reliable perimeter shooters, and Northern Iowa's offense is far more dangerous than their season-long analytics might suggest. And their first-round opponent is St. John's, who enters the tournament extremely hot after winning 19 of their last 20 games, including a dominant win over UConn in the Big East Championship. But that matchup could turn into a defensive slugfest, and if Northern Iowa can control the tempo and force a slow-paced game with the Johnnies, they have the experience and discipline to give themselves a real chance to pull off the upset. And every March Madness tournament produces at least a few Cinderella stories, and although some of these teams may lose in the first round, I truly believe this year's Cinderella will come from this group. But now, the question is, which Cinderella do you trust most in your bracket? Well, that wraps it up for this one. Let me know in the comments down below who your favorite upset picks are in the NCAA tournament this year. Also, if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.